Hey everybody. All right, so we're just going to go over this attribute packing concept here. Now remember, we talked about memory, we just talked about memory pegs, we talked about memory objects, but you think about it, we did those dynasties, right? You did, so what were we had? Wessex, we had Anjou, we had Plantagenet, we had all these things. Well, if all you need to do is remember things in order, that's great. But what if you need to remember some stuff about those things? Well, that's where the attribute packing comes in. And truthfully, attribute packing is kind of like a combination of different things because you can use storytelling, you can use mind palace, you can use memory pegs, you can use mnemonics. We haven't really talked about mnemonics, but you can use any of those things to organize the memory pegs, I'm sorry, the attributes. But an attribute is kind of like something to remember about the thing. So let's just say we just did the presidents. Let's say that what we wanted to do was remember some things about the presidents. I'll even make up some more. Let's say vice president. So you want to remember who's vice president. You want to, hold on a second. You want to let's say you want to remember issues during the election. You want to remember time or dates. Well, let's just say term, election year, or whatever. You want to remember state the person came from, right? All of these things, state of president, whatever. So these are all things that potentially you might want to remember about all 45 presidents, right? Slogans, right? What was their slogan to win? So this is a very cool tool, by the way. This is a mind mapping tool that I created, and you guys are going to be able to use this all the time. I just haven't really given it to you yet, but you'll be able to use this for notes, and this is just a great way to visually organize information. All right, so what do we do? Let's just say we're doing George Washington, and we want to do what were the issues during his election. You know, he was unanimously elected, but what were the issues? You know, what year was it? Who was his vice president? Did he have a slogan? What state did he come from? All kind, things that happened during his presidency. Events of presidency, right? I keep doing that same thing. All right, whatever. I don't want to bore you. And so what do you do now? What you do is you get George Washington, and what's our image for George Washington? It's really George Washington because they've done a good job of getting us to know what George Washington looks like. Or it's a dollar bill. So we have a dollar bill, and that dollar bill becomes our box, right? So we have a dollar bill, a box with a dollar bill on it. And that's our George Washington box. And then all we do, it's very simple, all we do is put things into this box, right? Who's his vice president? What are the effects? What were the issues during the election? Now, that doesn't do us any good unless we have memory objects for those things, right? So we have to have memory objects for the issues during the election. We have to have memory objects for the years. I'm going to teach you how to do years. Don't worry about dates just yet. But let's just say his vice president was Adams. So what do? You have a memory object for Adams, and you put an apple in the box, and that's your memory object. Now, if you need to remember that apple stands for vice president, then you need a memory object or a connection for that as well, right? So you might think of vice president becomes president when the president gets shot. So maybe you have an apple holding a gun, and you just have a gun representing vice president for all eternity, right? That's just what a vice president is. You might say causes and effects. This is where you could say you want causes. Again, we can do rhymes. You could say I want causes to be represented by paws. From now on, anytime I have an object that has a paw on it, I'm going to think of that as a cause, and effects could be what rhymes with effects. Let's just say insects. So then you want to have, anytime you have insects on any of your attribute packing, you're going to say that has to do with effects. Now, we'll dig into that a little bit more when we start doing it, but I just wanted to show you what I was talking about, right? So what you do is you go in, and remember I talk about study doodles. You go in, and let's say you're studying George Washington's presidency, and you say, here's the date he was elected, here's his vice president, here's his the issues during the campaign, here are the events that happened during his presidency. As you're doing that, you're just going through and creating a memory object very quickly. Like, this is 10-second stuff, right? 10 seconds turning the Bacon's Rebellion into an image. I mean, what's a great image for Bacon's Rebellion? Bacon. Now, that said, Bacon's Rebellion, the fact that you use a Bacon object doesn't teach you what Bacon's Rebellion is. That's just your object, but it helps you connect that event to George Washington or to the Whiskey Rebellion or to this or that, all right? So that's part of what you do. As you're learning, you're creating the memory objects, and then when you get to the business of trying to organize that into the presidencies, organize that into causes, effects, then you just pack the box. And now you've got this box with a dollar bill in it, and when you open it, you can see the certain things that you've put in it. And remember, you can do that just generally, a big old pile of things, but what you really want to do is use some of our more sophisticated techniques. What are they? First one we did, storytelling. So you could have in this box an apple, and have that apple, which is the vice president, the apple holding a gun, would be the starting point, which then leads through a story about the George Washington presidency, just like we did with the periodic table of elements. Make sense? Okay. Let's say you hate storytelling. I'm done with storytelling. Storytelling is the worst, Mr. O'Leary. I'm not doing it. So you put that aside and you say, we're going to do a mind palace. So then you have a dollar bill representing George Washington, and you could have a dollar bill room, right? In your mind palace, you could have a room that has, you can create your own images. You can use your house, or you can use your school, or you can use your church, or you can use the library or whatever, or you can just decorate your own room. You could use that image that I gave you for the English dynasties, right? So you do that, and then you say, I'm going to put the apple with the gun on the sofa. I'm going to put the bacon on the windowsill. I'm going to put the lamp. I'm going to put the Whiskey Rebellion. I'm going to put the French Revolution, blah, 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 right? So this is all just a bunch of memory objects linking together, but you're going to be delighted, guys. If you haven't already, you're going to be delighted about how easy this makes it. And you know, one of the coolest things about this is that it lets you study without having to have your computer, notes, or a book. Truthfully, you can just go outside. You can be listening to music, close your eyes, and just rerun through the Washington administration and the Adams administration and the Jefferson administration. So you can be studying repetition, you know, reviewing notes, looking for gaps and all that stuff with your eyes closed. I mean, try that without the memory techniques, without the mind palace, without the memory pegs, without the memory objects. Your brain is not equipped to do that. But with it, you can just close your eyes and review to your heart's content. And if you're like, God, I can't remember, what was the thing right after the Adams apple in the Washington's presidency? Well, you can go look it up if you can't remember it. And then you can, that creates that connection. And the third technique that you can use when you're doing your attribute packing is your memory pegs, okay? So let's just say you come in here and you have a memory peg for the dollar bill box. All you really need to do is remind yourself that you're doing the dollar bill when you start doing the hot dog bun or the shoe or the tree or the door or the hive or the sticks or whatever. So, you can reuse all of this stuff, no problem. All right, so we're going to do this a lot. I did want to spend some time. I want to make sure that we take care. I'm sorry, I got distracted. So we're going to do this a lot. We're going to review these techniques. But I did want you to understand attribute packing. And of course, the previous video was on the memory pegs. So we're good, man. We have got some really good techniques, and a lot of this is just going to be applying it. We are going to, of course, do the basic number objects, and then we're just going to start doing challenges. The things that come up for you during class, we're going to introduce them here and just start to create stories, create mind maps, create memory palaces, create memory pegs, create whatever. Okay? Cool beans. Talk to you later.